start now. It is 9 a.m. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. My trusty gavel. It is the Sandag Board of Directors meeting, Friday, February 25th, 2022. And I would like to ask our interpreter, Ruth, to walk us through interpretation services.
Yes, good morning. I'll repeat the message that follows in English. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, por favor desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, que es el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular o tableta, presione los puntos suspensivos, luego Interpretation y luego el idioma. Gracias. To use the Zoom interpreting feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are located. Click on the interpretation icon, which is the world icon, and select English as your language. If you are joining using the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone or tablet, please press the ellipses, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Now we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's worth recognizing here as we pledge allegiance to our own flag, and I think we all have a little bit of a stirring of patriotism when that happens, that, you know, our friends, our 40 million Ukrainian friends are not able or being denied their right to allegiance to their flag and their country right now. And I think many of us are deeply upset about that. But I just want to take a moment to recognize that, because it's a very serious situation what's happening in Europe right now. And I think it's important to note that our pledge is just as important to them as it is to us. So anyway, I'm not going to dwell on it, but I think it's worth taking that moment to just recognize. So next, we're going to jump into non-agenda public comments. So as a reminder to the public, please raise your virtual hand.
Roll. Not yet.
If you would like to make a comment. So Francesca, do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Terry. I do see one hand from the public. Mike Bullock, you're self-muted at the moment. You can start when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chair and members of the board, my name is Mike Bullock. I live in Oceanside, and I comment generally about our need to stabilize the climate and the 2030 requirement that we have to achieve. This morning, I want to talk about the fact that the public relies on us to give them good information about transportation. And we should be careful in doing that. When we comment to the public, we should make sure that what we're saying is actually backed up by the facts. And I am talking about the fact that HOV lanes added to general purpose lanes will not reduce vehicle miles traveled, will not reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and as a matter of fact, right now, we're all thinking about it, it adds to Vladimir Putin's strength. It adds to him his hand, so to speak, in the world when we burn more fossil fuels and when we open up projects that are going to cause us to burn more fossil fuels. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do for the climate, and it's not patriotic, and we need to understand the way this works. I've talked about it before, but people don't seem to be grasping it. It's not really that complicated. Anybody that takes a class in urban planning will learn about induced traffic demand. And what happens is if you do anything to create space on the road, you will induce enough additional traffic to fill in that space. And so you will not come out ahead. So if you add HOV lanes, yeah, some people that are carpooling anyway, fam pools they call it, you know, husband and wife, they'll go over and use that lane and they'll create space on the road. Occasionally those things actually cause people to carpool. And it's rare. The studies of this it's not very encouraging. There's nothing to speak for adding HOV lanes, but yeah, there's some carpools. And so in that case, 2 cars come out of the general purpose lanes and go over there onto that new HOV lane. But anything you do to increase space on the road will induce enough traffic to fill in that space. So any relief is going to be very short-lived, very short-lived. And what we'll wind up with is more lanes just as congested. So there's no traffic relief. And the tragedy is we've spent a lot of money, and what we get more vehicle miles traveled. So, the fossil fuel companies love it. Trump Putin loves it. And it's the wrong thing for many.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is a member of the public who has called in on a cell phone, and I apologize, I don't have the phone number in front of me. But if that's you, I'm going to go ahead and allow you access to talk, and you can start when you're ready.
Thank you, Francesca. Mary D here. I just wanted to take a brief moment to thank you for the vote from Sandag's last meeting to reopen your meetings to in-person public attendance. I have monitored many agencies and have witnessed firsthand, and even been subjected to myself, to technical difficulties or delays that prevented speakers from being fully heard or sometimes not heard at all. Thank you for restoring the opportunity for our voices to ring loudly via in-person attendance, and thank you for having led the way in reopening San Diego County. I encourage all other government bodies to follow Sandag's lead, since Governor Newsom officially declared COVID to now be endemic. Thanks again, and kudos to Sandag for listening to us. I really liked Mayor Blake Spear's acknowledgement for Ukraine, and God bless Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our final speaker will be Catherine Rhodes. Catherine, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Lovely. Thank you very much. This is Catherine Rhodes. And what I wanted to speak today is about a comment I heard of why the public is not doing anything to help homeless, and why we're trying to rely on our elected officials to actually do something. And, we're just sitting behind Twitter, literally doing nothing. And the answer to that is because it's illegal for private people or nonprofits or churches to open up emergency shelter. It's literally illegal under the City of San Diego Municipal Code. So if a church wanted to open up a shelter, what would happen is neighborhood code compliance would come by and say, you're not allowed to have these people who are on the verge of death be in your shelter because it's illegal. But there's one great, wonderful opportunity to get around that. And that is the emergency shelter crisis law that literally allows Mayor Gloria or City Council to bypass the municipal code and allow emergency shelters anywhere they want to. And so my recommendation for the city to get out of the way of, people who want to actually help, but are not allowed to help because, they don't want to pay the fines of neighborhood code compliance, is to follow the City of Los Angeles municipal code. They have a self-certification program for private nonprofit charitable organizations to run shelters. And all they require is the ministerial approval. Churches would go fill out an application and make sure they're in compliance with all things to do with the fire marshal. And that's called City of Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 12.81, private nonprofit charitable organization shelters. So it can be done. And then for the county, I wanted to tell you a story about patriotic villages in Ramona. A gentleman was housing 55 or 40 something families in shelters in the back of his industrial lot, where emergency shelters are allowed ministerially by right through the County of San Diego's housing element. But what happened was neighborhood code compliance came and shut him down and said that, even though it's an allowable use, they're not going to allow him to do anything ministerially. They're going to make him, pay, tens of thousands of dollars for for discretionary permits when by law it's supposed to be ministerial. So for the people who say, why isn't the public doing everything? Why are we just, looking to you to do something? It's because that's how you created the law. But you have an opportunity to literally do anything you want. And I hope you do that. Thank you.
Thank you, and Chair, that concludes the public commenters.
Okay, thank you. One of the public commenters was thanking us for going back to in-person meetings, and I just want to give a little brief update on that. So on March 11th, that's the next time that our board meeting happens, we are going to be having hybrid. So that means board members and members of the public can join in person at the Sandag offices or to continue to participate virtually. So I will be in person. I encourage all board members to come in person if you feel safe and are able to. And then we'll also have policy advisory committees following a hybrid format in the near future as well. So if you have any questions about that, hopefully the Sandag staff has reached out to all board members to make sure that you're aware of your options. But make sure you reach out and have a conversation in depth about it if you'd like to. So thank you again to the public commenter who spoke on that, and I look forward to seeing you in person at that next meeting. So we're going to take some things out of order in the ongoing effort to manage the meeting within the time that we have allotted for Sandag meetings. Which is already significant. I think everybody likes to end on time. So we're going to go I'll tell you how we're going to do it today. So we're going to move into open session reports, then we'll have consent agenda, and then Hassan's CEO report, followed by member comments, and then ending with closed session before we adjourn. So first up today, we're going to go with item number 12, which is Regional Early Action Planning Grants for 2021. And I'll hand it over to Colleen to kick it off.
Good morning, Chair Blakespear and Sandag board members. I'm really pleased to bring this item to you this morning. Tuere Faola will be giving you the presentation, but I just want to make you all aware that we have a unique opportunity with several $1 million coming to the San Diego region to build affordable housing. This is a brand new state program. Brand new funds that have not come to the region before. We are going to be getting more than $40 million to work with local jurisdictions and developers. And this is a great way to begin implementation of our regional plan and work in our mobility hubs. So I want to just give you kind of that context. Tuere is going to go into the details of what the plan includes. And today we're asking you to adopt a resolution that allows us to go to the state of California and officially request the funds. So thank you for that. And I'll turn it over to Tuere.
Thank you, Colleen. And good morning, Chair Blakespear and members of the Sandag board. I'm Tuere Faola. I'm the Sustainable Communities Manager here at Sandag. And like Colleen said, super excited to talk to you about the REAP program and the things that we've already done to date and the things that we're really looking forward to continuing to do given the opportunity to receive this additional funding. Next slide, please. So I just want to take a moment to talk logistically about how we receive this new funding opportunity. I talked to you about this probably the last time I came, but since it's been several months, I think it'd be nice for me to just give a quick reminder. But in 2019, Assembly Bill 101 established the Regional Early Action Planning Grants. And you'll hear me or other staff refer to that as our REAP program. And this was recently followed up by the additional funding that Colleen mentioned, that $43 million that we're anticipating receiving. This was additionally followed up in 2021 by Assembly Bill 140. And both of these programs established one-time grant funds through the California Department of Housing and Community Development, so HCD, to help regions across the state accelerate housing production and to meet our RHNA goals. The one thing that is new and different for the 2021 Regional Early Action Planning Grants is the state's emphasis on climate and housing goals really coming together. And this is displayed also in the partnership approach that the state has taken with administering the REAP 2.0 program. They're doing this in collaboration with the Office of Planning and Research, Sustainable Growth Council, as well as the California Air Resources Board. So we're really excited to see the direction that the state is moving with this program. As Colleen said, it allows us to accelerate housing and achieving the goals that we have within our regional plan, including our mobility hubs. Next slide. So here you have a timeline that highlights some of the major milestones for housing that we've accomplished just in this past year using our REAP funds. Starting it all off on the timeline is a very similar action to what we're requesting today from the board. We came in February of 2021 to ask the board to adopt a resolution to apply for and receive our REAP 1.0 funds. And then that was for $6.8 million. And that allowed us to expand our housing program here at Sandag, which resulted in releasing a call for projects in November, followed by the establishment of our Regional Equitable Housing Subcommittee in December. And you'll see that on the timeline that we had our first meeting of that subcommittee on February 1st. And then really bringing us to where we are today, which is the first dot that's shown in pink with our request for adopting that resolution that allows us to apply for and receive the REAP 2.0 funds. And as Colleen said, well, actually, maybe you didn't say it, Colleen, but I thought you were going to. We're going to be coming back to you next month to talk to you about the successful applicants, actually, that from that call for projects, all of the cities who applied and is successful, and we're hoping to get approval from the board to release those funds to the cities. Next slide. But before I do want to just kind of walk through some of the REAP 1.0 program allocation and a few reminders before I talk to you specifically about REAP 2.0. And so I want to give you some context for that and a quick reminder on how that 6.8 million is. On the prior slide, I did mention to you about the $3 million that we're planning, that we released as a call for projects for local jurisdictions to apply for how they would like to receive and accelerate housing production. And we're going to be bringing that back to you next month in March. And that was done, and the funding for that was done through our REAP 1.0 program allocation. And the state's investments to fund different things like that within our region, really expanding Sandag's role as a housing leader, is we have to do all of that by 2023. That's when the funding expenditure deadline is for REAP 1.0. Next slide. So the three main focus areas for REAP 1.0 that we are looking at is really how we can support our local jurisdictions. We started this off, as I've said several times already, with our Housing Acceleration Program grants. We're also looking at other technical assistance and documents that we can provide to help jurisdictions to meet their housing element goals and our RHNA goals for the region. We're also looking at things that we can do as a regional leader for data analysis and policy resources that really give jurisdictions the tools that you need to be able to move forward with housing solutions in your cities, as well as for us as a region as a whole. And then the last thing that I have here highlighted is our regional initiatives. And this is things that we're trying to do to really engage the local communities with activities such as our Housing Policy Leadership Academy, or exploring a vision for housing financial models for the San Diego region to help us accelerate housing production. Next slide. So I do just want to highlight one recent accomplishment that we've had with education and outreach under the REAP 1.0 program. We just recently held a housing policy forum that was hosted on February 15th. We had over 130 attendees, so we're super excited for everyone who was able to participate in that. And I know some of you were able to participate. And the attendees from that were really representing all types of different sectors within our community, from nonprofits to regular community members, public agencies and electeds and the like, that wanted to come together and have an educational opportunity to talk about legislation and what is happening at the state and the local level to help us accelerate housing production. And we're going to continue this educational opportunity through our Housing Policy Leadership Academy. This is going to be a 10-month-long academy, and it'll allow 80 participants. And it's really designed to empower our local leaders, our housing advocates, elected officials, planning staff, and more with the knowledge and the tools that you need to be able to accelerate housing production and to build cross-sector partnerships, because we recognize that accelerating housing production in our region, it's not something that's going to be done in a silo or only with Sandag's leadership. It's going to take many people supporting housing to make this happen. So next slide. So now that I've talked quite a bit about the REAP 1.0 program, I do want to engage and talk with you about REAP 2.0. And so that's the money that we're getting, the 43 million that we're asking for the resolution for today. And, you know, we're excited for this, as Colleen mentioned. It really gives our region a lot of extra funds to do even more for housing and to put some of the funding in our local jurisdictions' hands to continue to help you. But the one really unique thing that we're happy about with the REAP 2.0 program that we didn't have the opportunity with the first funding round is we can use these funds for both planning and capital projects. So that's really exciting to be able to broaden the scope of what we get to do with our housing program. And the state is giving us access to an initial 10% of our 43 million to begin our outreach and education on how we want to develop the REAP 2.0 program. We already started a little bit of this with engaging with our city staff and our working groups of SANDAG, actually just yesterday afternoon through a forum where we talked to them about here's what the REAP 2.0 funding is, here's where the state's guidance is, and we wanted to hear from them on what do you want to see SANDAG do in terms of how we develop a program that helps our region collectively, accelerate housing. So we had a really engaging forum yesterday, and we're hoping to be able to continue as we seek and get approval to receive those funds, more of those educational opportunities, and working with our housing subcommittee on identifying how we want to develop our full program. And then one other thing before we go to the next slide that I will mention, there is also a funding deadline with the REAP 2.0, and that's for June of 2026. Next slide. So here are some just things that I wanted to highlight for how we anticipate the program objectives to be coming about. This is, kind of pulling together SANDAG's vision as well as the guidance that we've received from the state on the priorities that they want us to think about when we're administering this program. And really, I think it's very much in line with what we have in our regional plan, how we can accelerate infill development within our mobility hubs, how we help local jurisdictions continue to implement your housing elements, and really also looking at providing equitable housing options throughout the region. So we're excited for the opportunity this program offers. We're looking forward to working with both our cities, the county, as well as the state and the community working together on this. Next slide. So just logistically, our next steps and pending our approval today, we will be submitting our early application for the 10% to HCD next month. And after that, we would begin, and I guess I should say really continue conducting outreach and education around the REAP 2.0 program and how we want to frame what it is that we want to do with that remaining 90%, and then submitting our full application by the end of the year. So next slide, please. So our recommendation and our request today is that the Board of Directors would adopt resolution number 2022-14, authorizing staff to submit a request for and accept an advance allocation for the Regional Early Action Planning Grants of 2021 from the Department of Housing and Community Development. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And could you just specify how you reached out to all the cities to make sure all the cities are aware of it?
Yeah, so we have a technical working group, a regional planning technical working group among several other working groups within SANDAG. So all of our working group liaisons coordinated and sent multiple reminders to staff who are our representatives on those committees about the forum that we were hosting yesterday so that they could participate, engage, and ask questions. But it isn't a topic that we anticipate as a one-time opportunity. We're more than happy and will continue to go back to each of those individual working groups to engage with them and get their feedback and input. And we're also very much open to a lot of one-on-one with cities who are not able to attend any of the regular meeting forums.
And
Okay,
Chair, if I may, the Regional Planning Technical Working Group, those are your planning directors.
So all cities participate, right? It's not just cities.
All cities are part, every city and the county has a representative on the Regional Planning Technical Working Group, and those are your planning directors. Okay. And then the public works directors are part of the city, county, there's the public works directors group as well. So that's how we reach out to your staffs.
Okay, great. I see a number of board members with their hands up, but we're going to go to the public first. So Francesca, how many members of the public do we have?
Thank you, Chair. I see one hand up from the public.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Mike Bullock, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I heard a lot of things that sounded very good, a significant amount of money, transformative planning. We certainly need that. I heard about reducing vehicle miles traveled. That's exactly what needs to happen. But if you know me, I'm going to bring up car parking policy. And I'm going to point out that the more money you have to spend for car parking, the less money you're going to have for producing the real housing. And I think I would like people to kind of separate those two things, kind of unbundle the car parking in your mind as two different uses of your resource. And what's needed is a car parking system which no longer incentivizes car ownership. It doesn't encourage people to own a lot of cars. The way it is now, way too often, people rent apartments, and it's always very expensive, of course, and there's some number of parking spaces that they get, and it doesn't matter if they own a car or own a lot of cars. And that's not a good car parking system. And when you have a Housing Policy Leadership Academy, they should be talking about car parking policy. And I would point out that a very good car parking system has been included in comment letters to Sandag for decades. And as far as I can tell, it's been ignored. And I attend some of these housing policy meetings, and I try to speak and I try to mention car parking, and they kind of laugh and say, yeah, that's important. We'll try to do that next time or something. But we need that focus right now, and we need to have a little empathy here. You know, there are families that cannot afford a car, and they pay the exact same rent. And a good car parking system would be value priced, and it would provide earnings to the people that are losing money because the parking is there. And that really is the people that pay rent. So the people that pay rent should be getting car parking earnings, whether they pay for it or not, whether they are their own customer or not. And that very same car parking system should be used by Sandag for Sandag's employees. And the principle, you know, the formulas are a little different in terms of computing the earnings, but it works at a shopping center, it works downtown, it works for beach parking, it works for apartment parking, the same car parking system. And you know, two areas is she works for sustainable communities, and you cannot have free parking in a.
Thank you very much. That does conclude the public commenters.
Okay, thank you. So I'll go to Supervisor Tara Lawson-Remer.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I just want to say, I think this implementation funding for our sustainable community strategies is just exactly what we need right now to integrate jobs and transportation and housing. I'm really excited about developing criteria that can allocate these REAP2 funds to really be equitable and sustainable and resilient in how we think about our housing challenges. I love that it's voluntary, it's incentive-based. We're talking about livability, walkability, bikeability, increased transit ridership. So I just think it's great. And I'd love to make the motion authorizing staff to submit a request and accept an advance allocation of REAP grants as per staff request.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the table. Appreciate that. Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much. I have just a couple of questions. So one is the city of San Marcos, we are in the middle of updating our general plan. So I'm not sure based on this criteria, because I read, or based on the staff report, it says advanced implementation of adopted regional plans. So I don't know if that leaves my city out of it. And my apologies that I didn't discuss that with staff. I missed that point. And so I'm just curious what we're thinking about that.
So I can jump in, and Colleen, please feel free to add on. No, it does not leave your city out of that. This motion and action that we're requesting today is simply to adopt a resolution that allows us to submit for funding, to apply for and receive the funding from the state. The actual criteria around how we distribute the funds or how we determine what the program is, that's something that's actually still being developed. That's something that the supervisor mentioned, that our regional equitable housing subcommittee, we plan to engage them in that discussion amongst your city staff. So that's not something that's actually been determined. And the state does allow us here at the local level to make those determinations on how we distribute the funds.
Great. Okay. And then one more question. I was reading down under the key considerations, and infill is pretty much all we have left here in my city specifically. And I know many cities are close to build out. I know Lemon Grove, I think, is actually built out or pretty close there. Anyway, it says coordinate. Well, my question is, are we going to be coordinating with cities and it be based on their regional plans and be regionally driven, or is it going to be city driven? Because I personally, I think I lodged this in the last discussion that, we cities have a lot of things that are unique about us. And I personally want to be able to meet the needs of my community and not have any county or Sandag kind of over us saying, okay, well, you have to do this and you have to do that. I'm always fighting for local control. And so I just want to make sure that it will be city driven and not regionally driven.
So Mayor Jones, if I may, the first thing I wanted to mention is that your city is well prepared to be highly competitive here. And I do know that your planning team has been working very closely. And I recently saw a fabulous presentation by them about how your general plan is aligned with the regional plan. So you're in really good shape there. And plus you've done so much affordable housing, and we've heard you talk about the need of kind of that gap funding to get some of these projects built. And that's exactly what we want to be able to do with this money. So it is going to be a competitive process. Ultimately, this board of directors, or the board of directors in place at the time that we bring forward the criteria for selection, that'll be brought before the board to decide. So I think that's really important. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that the regional plan and our mobility hubs and the RENA plan is really being held up as an example statewide. And I think we have a great opportunity to show the state of California and other cities throughout the state how this can be done well. So we really look forward to working with you and your staff, Mayor Jones, to make this a reality.
Yeah,
Right.
but just to add a little bit to what Colleen said to Mayor Jones' question, this will still be regional driven, because that's how the money is given to us. So it's not we're going to give you the money and disappear. There's certain criteria that has to be met. The state is giving us $43 million to implement sustainable community strategy. But as we always do, we want to work with the cities. We want to be one team to reach the performance objective that this fund's supposed to do. And give you all the control you need. But at the same time, there will be certain things we have to meet for this money.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mayor Huebner.
Yes, and that's a perfect lead into my question, which was, do we yet know what the restraints are on these funds from the state?
So right now they've given us a framework for how they anticipate using and would like to see the program funds used, but we are waiting for the full guidelines in March, late March.
Okay, and one other quick question in your presentation, Tuari, I saw the phrase capital mapping, and could you describe that a little bit more, please?
Yeah, and this was and thank you for actually highlighting that. This came up in our forum yesterday. So one of the things that we're working, and we've heard with jurisdictions through some of the outreach and engagement that we did at the beginning of our REAP 1.0 program, was asking some of the different things that they thought might be useful to them. And one thing that they identified was just kind of if Sandag could help collectively reach out to developers, understand, and start to build a pipeline of future development opportunities and what developers are thinking of doing in the next 5 years. So part of the capital mapping is identifying those projects coming forward in the next 5 years, and then also helping those developers and working with city staff on where we might start to match them up with funding opportunities to help them get those projects built. And so that's really what the capital mapping is. It's helping to identify the capital projects and mapping them to financial opportunities to ensure that they're built within our region.
Great. That sounds really good and very much needed. Appreciate it. Looking forward to this program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Shu.
Good morning. What a great opportunity to move affordable housing forward and with additional funding, but also to plan it correctly. So I second this motion and want to see it go forward. I do have some preliminary ideas with regards to criteria, and I just want to throw them out so that we can think of them in advance. One is to have this planning process coincide with our RTP, particularly with the Series 14 idea of moving housing closer to urbanized areas so that we don't have so much unnecessary transportation throughout our region. Second is that with our arena numbers, the category that we have a hard time meeting is for the very low income. We speak of affordable housing, but we really need to address those who are in bottom rows of the income bracket. Another is that we build housing that is carbon free. There's no need to have additional housing burning more fossil fuels. So let's have carbon-free housing as we go forward. It is in the long term more cost-effective anyway. And I think we need some other ideas with regards to what was mentioned by Mike Bullock, unbundle the parking so we don't waste money building more parking spaces, which increase our problems not only for residents, but also for the environment. So I'm looking forward to this and how we can move forward and participating in the process of developing really strong criteria, and look forward to Sandag helping our individual city planning processes, our planning department, and supporting our climate action plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council Member. Next, we have Mayor Hall.
Thank you, Chair. And again, this is an extremely important item, and someone who's been working on affordable housing since the early 90s. It's also a very complicated subject, and it takes partners to make this work. And I'm glad to see Sandag is being proactive in trying to bring money to this region. But what I think is very important to me is to what the criteria is going to be to get access to these funds, and how it gets distributed evenly, throughout the region. So, and I can say, I can thank the county. We've partnered with them just recently in the last year or two on 50 affordable units right here in downtown Carlsbad. So I understand the collaboration and the partnership, and funding and trying to get funding is extremely challenging. Also, deed restriction to make sure whatever we invest in stays affordable throughout. So the sooner I can see that criteria, the happier I can be, so we can make our comments and see what may need to be added or deleted. So thank you for this item.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, we have a motion and a second, so let's go ahead and vote.
Thank you very much. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Aye.
For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Yes.
For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
For the City of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterland.
Yes.
For the City of, for the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
The City of Escondido is absent. For the City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Aguirre.
Aguirre, yes.
Thank you. For the City of La Mesa, Vice Mayor Shu.
La Mesa, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
For the City of National City, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
For the City of Poway, Mayor Boss.
Yes.
For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Gloria.
Aye.
For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto let me know that he was having some technical issues that would prevent him from voting verbally. So I'm going to go ahead and ask him to submit his vote via the chat. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto has voted yes. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Huebner.
Huebner, yes.
Thank you. And for the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you very much. And that does pass unanimously with those members present.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, for that item. Now we're on to item 13. So this is the fiscal year 2022 revised apportionment and fiscal years 23 through 27 Transnet and transit related revenues. So we'll hand this over to Ariana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Miller. I'm a senior economist here at Sandag. Good morning to the esteemed board, and I'm going to give a little brief overview of current economic conditions, and then turn it over to Ariana. And the headline for those economic conditions is that COVID is still driving the economy. I guess as of yesterday, the war in Ukraine is in the backseat, giving bad directions. We have seen robust growth in the GDP in the last year, 5.4%, which was the highest since 1984, and a very healthy rebound from our 3.4% dip that was COVID driven in 2020. And the Philadelphia Fed survey of professional forecasters is looking at a 3.7% increase in GDP for 2022, although the Ukraine situation could slice a couple of tenths of a percent off that growth. The labor market also saw significant upheaval from COVID, with unemployment peaking at 16% in April of 2020. It's now down to 4% nationally, 4.2% here in San Diego. And in addition, employers have record numbers of job openings, with record resignations also seen as employees find other opportunities and leave the workforce. So wages are also rising, particularly in the lower income workers. So if the economy is growing robustly and everyone who has a job wants one and wages are rising, why are people so on edge? And the answer to that is inflation. CPI rose 7% last year, which is the biggest rise in almost 40 years. And the rise was really focused on things that we buy a lot of. Gasoline went up 40%. And this really impacts people's bottom line. And over the past 10 to 20 years, we've really gotten used to inflation that's very low in the 2% range. So it's kind of a shock to the system. Again, the Philadelphia Fed survey of forecasters does predict lingering inflation of about 3.8% in 2022, which is still double what we've seen in the last 40 years. And that could also go up a little with the situation in Ukraine, particularly with regards to energy, because Ukraine is a very large energy exporter. Russia is a very large energy exporter, and Ukraine is a exporter of grain to the Middle East, particularly. Housing costs have spiked over 20% in the last year, which adds to our difficulty, and construction costs have risen about 7%, which can impact Sandag construction projects. Inflation, when you think about inflation, it's caused by both supply and demand. And on the supply side, we have kinks in every link of the supply chain. Production is in China and other places. China is still pursuing a zero COVID policy, which means they'll have shutdowns in production facilities. International shipping has been thrown into turmoil. When these ships get to U.S. ports, there's backlogs on both the water and on the land. And domestically, we're really seeing a situation where we have shortages of truck drivers and warehouse workers. So supply chains are in a mess. But we also have the demand side. So COVID has shifted consumer behavior for all of us away from things like restaurants, hotels, and travel to goods, things that need to be produced and shipped. Things like home offices and gyms, many of us have updated and spent money on that. And you couple that with some generous income support from the federal government, both in terms of stimulus checks and expanded unemployment benefits, and Americans have really been on a buying spree that's added to these inflationary pressures. So you have supply down, demand up, prices go up. The Federal Reserve, who's in charge of taming inflation, is taking a pretty hawkish approach on this. They are indicating that they will raise interest rates to cool the economy several times this year from their current near zero level of interest rates. And hopefully that will cool the economy some, but it will raise the cost of borrowing, including for Sandag, although I'm told by the finance department that we don't really have a lot of exposure to rising interest rates, and it could actually be beneficial because we have a lot of money in reserve that we will earn interest on. So our COVID impacts are also seen in Sandag revenues like TDA and Transnet funds. We had a flat 2020, 9% increase in those in 2021. And so far in 2022, we're seeing over 20% increase in Transnet and TDA revenues. And a lot of the spike is also inflation driven. Gas is up 40 to 50%. So we're receiving 40 to 50% more taxes on gasoline. Food is also up 20. So you're seeing a lot of that in the spike that we're seeing. And with that spike, we are revising our forecast upward for 11 to 11.7% for 2022. After that, for 2023, we're forecasting much slower growth of 0.07%. Kind of with the expectation that buying patterns and inflation will revert to something closer to a pre-pandemic normal. This is a conservative forecast, and it's intentionally so, though it is still back to essentially pre-COVID level of revenues in the long term. Now, the slide that you're seeing is a slide that you've seen several times, showing the top line in blue shows the initial forecast from about 20 years ago of what we anticipated we would see for revenues. The orange bars, vertical bars, are the actuals that we're seeing, including the bump we've seen in 2021. The yellow is the last forecast we brought to you, and the gray bar is the current forecast. So you can see that even though the current forecast is going up, and is a much rosier forecast than the previous one, it still doesn't solve our long-term issues, and it doesn't get us back to where we anticipated we would be when we went to the voters for Transnet 2. To get to our forecast, by the way, we employ a two-step forecasting method. The short-term forecast up to 2 years is based really on the professional judgment of Sandag's finance and economic teams. We look at receipts, the forecasts we receive from our vendors, and short-term economic conditions, and come up with short-term forecasts. The long-term forecast that goes out to 2048 is a consensus of 3 outside vendor forecasts for per capita retail sales, to which we apply to our the DOF population forecast. This methodology was approved by a peer review process in January of last year by Sandag staff and outside experts who looked at the methodology. And this specific forecast we're bringing today was put through the Sandag internal QA/QC process to ensure that there were no errors and that the methodology was being followed. Right now, I'll turn it over to Ariana Zerneden for the rest of the presentation, and we'll be available for questions after that.
Thank you, Jim, and good morning, Chair Blake Spear and Sandag board members. So now that we've heard from Jim on his economic update, I'll share with you what this means for your local agencies and for our transit operators as well. But before I begin, it's important to reiterate, and I really want to stress with you that consistent with what you've heard at your recent board meetings regarding the updated Transnet revenue forecast, that while this revision reflects a significant short-term increase, We're still projecting additional funding will be needed to complete the program in the long term. So we still need to continue working with all of you and continue pursuing additional funding for the region. And with that said, the reason we're here today is to seek your approval of a revision for both the Transnet and TDA related revenues for fiscal year 22. And then in addition, we're also looking for your approval of the estimated revenues for the period covering fiscal years 23 through 27. So the reason that this is important is because these estimates allow SANDAG and our partner agencies to plan for capital projects and to determine operating subsidies. There's 3 types of funding that this item covers, and those are your TDA, your FTA, and Transnet funding. So Transportation Development Act, which is your 0.25% share of the state sales tax, the FTA or Federal Transit Administration formula funding, as well as your Transnet half-cent local sales tax measure. And we bring this item to you every February because your action allows our transit agencies to plan for capital projects and determine operating subsidies. And we work closely not only with our region's transit operators to develop these revenue estimates, but also in conjunction with the San Diego County Auditor and Controller's Office, and that's per statute, to confirm the proposed growth rates for these funds, and then to apportion them to support local agency and transit operator planning and operating efforts and budgeting efforts. So for this year's item, we're happy to report that fiscal year 22 Transnet and TDA revenues are higher than what the board approved last February. The revised anticipated revenues for FY22 are about $373 million for Transnet, and then for TDA at about $175 million. In attachment 3 to your report, you'll note that for each funding type, we include how the money flows to the various sub-programs. With your approval today, our transit operators would receive an additional $30 million, and member jurisdictions an extra $15 million in FY22 funding over the previous estimate. Again, while FY22 sales tax revenues are expected to increase, revenue growth is then expected to slow, which brings us to fiscal year 23. Where the growth is forecast at just 0.7%, as Jim mentioned. It's more of a tempering there, consistent with what he shared. For fiscal year 23, revenues are anticipated to bring in approximately $375 million in Transnet and $176 million in TDA. Some related items subsequent to this estimate that you'll begin seeing in upcoming months include the transit agency capital program budgets, SANDAG's draft and final proposed budgets, and then local agency capital improvement program updates as reflected in your RTIP or Regional Transportation Improvement Program amendments. The estimates were reviewed by your Transnet Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee, or ITOC, and recommended by your Transportation Committee earlier this month. Upon board approval, the estimates would be released to our transit and local agencies for planning and programming use. The recommendation for you today is that the Transportation Committee recommends that the Board of Directors approve the fiscal year 22 apportionment revision and fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 27 estimates and apportionments for Transportation Development Act, Federal Transit Administration, and Transnet funds. And with that, Jim and I are happy to help answer questions. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that information from both of you. That was very interesting. Do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Chair. I do see one hand from the public. Catherine Rhodes, you can begin when you're ready.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for this report. It was very informative. What I wanted just to mention for everybody is that Sempra Energy, or San Diego Gas and Electric, actually increased residential rates 15% this, I believe it was this year, or yes, in this year, at the beginning of the year. And so now San Diego has surpassed the state of Hawaii with the highest residential rates in the country. And, you know, and that is because the Public Utilities Commission approved it. And I'm not sure if there was anybody in elected government that actually went to these Public Utility Commission meetings and told them that, you know, people in San Diego shouldn't pay more money, especially when Sempra is getting, you know, tons of revenue and profit. And so they're very much profiting off of a very high rate. And so what I would recommend, since, no individual city, I believe, is going to the CUP, maybe Sandag could have people actually go up there to the meetings and say, we need some relief. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Chair, that concludes the public commenters.
Okay, we don't have another hand that's up?
No, there was, but he put his hand down.
I see. Okay. Okay, great. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? I'm not seeing any. Okay, we do need to approve this item, so I would entertain a motion and a second.
Sotelo Solis move for approval.
Okay, thank you, and I will second it. So let's go ahead and vote.
Thank you very much. For the city of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Carlsbad, aye.
For the city of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Salas, yes.
For the city of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
For the county of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
For the city of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterland.
Del Mar, yes.
For the city of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
For the city of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
The city of Escondido is absent. For the city of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Aguirre.
Aguirre, yes.
For the city of La Mesa, Vice Mayor Shu.
Mesa, yes.
For the city of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
For the city of National City, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
For the city of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
For the city of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Yes.
For the city of San Diego, Vice Chair Gloria. Vice Chair, I'm sorry, if you stated your vote, I wasn't able to hear it.
I think the council president is taking his place.
My apologies. Council
Yes.
President Lou Rivera.
Yes.
Thank you very much. For the city of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
For the city of Santee, Mayor Minto. Mayor Minto is a yes. For the city of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
And for the city of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. And that item does pass unanimously with those members present.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So we are now speeding along to consent. So I appreciate everybody's help in moving the agenda forward. We're doing well so far. So do we have any public comments on our consent agenda? If you have any public comments, go ahead and put your hand up.
I don't see any hands, Chair.
Chair, move to approve consent items 3 through 11.
Okay, let's see if, okay, Councilmember Sotelo Solis, and then who was the second?
Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, okay. I do see 2 hands have gone up. Is this to pull an item from consent, Mayor Jones, Mayor Hall?
I am. I'd like to pull 6 and 7, please.
Okay. 6 and 7 we'll pull, and then Mayor Hall?
7.
Okay, so would the motion maker and seconder like to amend it to be the balance?
Yes.
Okay. And Mayor Vasquez, yes, okay, okay, great. So let's go ahead and vote on the balance.
Thank you. For the city of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Hall, yes.
For the city of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Yes.
For the city of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
For the county of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
For the city of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterland.
Del Mar, yes.
For the city of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
For the city of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
The city of Escondido is absent. For the city of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Aguirre.
Aguirre, yes.
For the city of La Mesa, Vice Mayor Shu.
Mesa, yes.
For the city of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Palmer Vasquez, yes.
For the City of National City, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Yes.
For the City of San Diego, Council President Hilo Rivera.
Hilo Rivera, yes.
For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto. Mayor Minto is a yes. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
And for the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Vista, yes.
Thank you. And that item passes unanimously with those members present.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the items that have been pulled. So we'll start with item 6. Mayor Jones, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Is it possible to have the OIPA have a quick review to make sure that we're not changing scope or cost unrelated to COVID on this item?
Is she Mary Kay here and want to address that comment?
I will relay that to our independent auditor if she's not here.
Okay. Does staff want to say anything about this item, like maybe just review it?
I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Mary to a panelist so that she can comment.
Oh, okay, great.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chair. Item 6, from what I'm reading in item 6, it does say that they're asking that to waive a review because they do want to change scope or cost items. So maybe some direction on what I'm supposed to be looking at. If it's a material scope change or cost item, maybe management can share what those changes are or the detail around it.
Or maybe Jenny Russo or somebody who's in charge of this staff item can give the board some information about this item and what it is.
Yes. Is Jenny there?
I am here.
Yeah. All right, Jenny, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So this item is to provide administrative leave for our grantees who are still experiencing issues because of COVID. So when we talk about scope change, the things that we're talking about is a lot of our grant programs have vehicles that are either completely out of service or they're in what we call alternative service. So they're supposed to be providing trips for seniors and individuals with disabilities. And because ridership is really low and that segment of the population is still really vulnerable, they may be providing different services. So they may be providing meals or personal protective equipment or things like that. It's all under the purview of our FDA 5310 program, and it is allowable as long as it doesn't offset or override the transportation need that's out in the community. So we have not seen that. That is the only scope change that we're talking about here. The rest of these are time extensions for projects that need additional time to complete because of issues, as I've mentioned before.
If I may, Chair, just to really clarify here what Jenny is saying.
Yeah.
Is that because of COVID, a lot of elderly and disabled people have not wanted to leave their homes. So instead of us picking them up in the vehicles that are funded by this program and taking them somewhere, we're taking things to people. So taking food to them instead of taking them to go shopping, taking protective things to them so they don't have to go, say, on a trip to Walmart to buy masks. Those things are brought to them. So it's kind of that's the difference in the scope. Rather than taking people out on a trip, is bringing the things to them and using that trip in that fashion instead. So that's the scope change that we're talking about here. And we have, run that through the federal agencies, and these are things that are being done elsewhere in the nation and are eligible under this fund source.
So what I can do with that then is I'm happy to look at those items in which they're doing a scope change and any funding or anything change to ensure that that's in fact what's happening and that they're adhering to it and that it is a result of COVID and that they're within those guidelines. I'm happy to look at that real quick.
So Chair, as long as it's within related to COVID, that is completely reasonable. I have no issues with it. I just want to make sure that we are looking at that. So thank you very much for that, Mary Kay. And then also thank you, Chair Blakespear.
Okay, so just to confirm with Colleen, so basically we would not be approving this item 6 today. Mary Kay would look at it and would come back to us on a future item, a consent item or otherwise. Is
That's
that
up to the board. That's up to the board to decide. I mean,
Is-
you could vote on it today and then Mary Kay could still bring back her review.
Yeah, I could, just so it's not held up, I can, if you wanted to vote on it, and if I found anything other than than that, I could bring it to the attention of the board.
okay? So
I'll move if you don't mind, Chair.
yeah, okay, that's great. I'll second it. Okay, so let's see what 7 is, and we might do 6 and 7 together. So let's just see where Mayor Hall, do you want to take 7?
Sure. Questions first on the chart, the legislative and policy program chart. Question on bullet 20, policy and or legislative changes to enable use of freeway shoulders as transit lanes or major corridors in the San Diego region. What does Caltrans say about that from a safety standpoint?
Trans here in the meeting, Anne Fox, I believe, today representing Gustavo. So Anne.
Hi, good morning. And actually we do have in our corridor director, Karen Jewell. So she's close to the project and can provide any answers on that.
Hi, this is Karen Jewell. And yes, in terms of the safety side of this, we have been coordinating as a joint effort with MTS, CHP, and Caltrans and Sandag on making sure that we go through the steps. We have gotten approval through our headquarters office on how to move forward with this project, and we're making sure that we meet all those agreements in that document. I'm not sure, does that answer your question?
Well, I spent over 12 years of my life working on the freeways in safety issues, accidents, and so on and so forth. And I don't know how you would run a freeway without a shoulder from a safety standpoint. And so I just don't know how you would do that. And so that's my question is, and that's what I want to hear Caltrans say, yes, we can operate a freeway safely without the shoulders. In fact,
Well,
that's why you have 2 shoulders.
And that document spells out criteria that we definitely need to adhere to make sure of those things. One of the main criteria is that shoulder will not be operated unless the speeds of the freeway are under 35 miles an hour. And there's only a 15-mile-an-hour differential that can be between the adjacent lanes. So that number 4 lane has to be within 15 miles an hour of that. The bus has to be within 15 miles an hour of that number 4 lane. So that it's a very small differential between those lanes. And then also our buses are now equipped with additional technology that will identify objects in the roadway and adjacent vehicles around them. And the bus driver has full control of being able to get out of that shoulder. If there was a car stalled in the shoulder, for instance, they would be able to move back into the number 4 lane and continue moving as the route would move now.
Okay. My next question is, or comment is on item 16, efforts to lower the current 2/3 voter requirement for special purpose taxes, such as transportation and quality of improvements as a simple majority vote. I can't believe this agency is putting this forward. I mean, we're here to represent the people, and the people have spoken with Prop 218 and why we would want to take upon ourselves to do this. As an agency, and I've been through more than one tax initiative with this agency, and if we're a collaborative group and really putting forward, I think what the community wants, we should easily be able to get a 2/3 vote. It's when we're not together and we're divided that it becomes challenging to get a 2/3 vote. So I would ask and make a motion that this gets removed from our legislative and policy program.
Okay, let's hear from staff, Colleen or Hassan or.
Yeah. This is an issue that we're not the only one in the state of California that been talking about. It was before, and I think it's an issue that we believe statewide is important for the voters of California to talk about. It is, the difference. Democracy is very clear. The majority, and in this case, lowering the threshold, like many regions tried in the state. I believe Mayor Gloria was part of running something in the Central Valley. So I believe it's a good thing for you to approve in case it comes up. I think it's important for the staff to be equipped with your action. It's not that we're not putting a bill forth, but it's part of our legislative program. And I think it's a good thing in our view, from the staff point of view.
Okay, thank you. So Mayor Jones, do you have your hands up about this item too? Okay, go ahead.
Actually, and I will second Mayor Hall's motion. I had the very same the same issues, one being the 2/3 majority, but I just wanted to make one statement about the conversion of a shoulder, because many of my, I think probably on the 78, my fire department spends a lot of time on there. I asked them what their thoughts were on this, and being that they spend a lot of time on the shoulders already with people that are in stranded vehicles or accidents or that sort of thing, they said that they weren't really comfortable with it. So when we talk to Caltrans, I would really like to hear how our fire agencies and our sheriff department or police departments feel about this as well, because we certainly don't want people to be then having closed down an entire area that our buses can't get through and then also the safety of the people. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. So anyway, again, I second the motion of Mayor Hall. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Council President.
Thank you, Chair. Are we, the discussions related to the motion made by Mayor Hall, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's important to give us more tools in our tool chest to actually make the change that needs to be made. We're living in an incredibly partisan time where it is very difficult to get to 2/3 on pretty much any issue, no matter how strong the evidence is to support that position. And so I'm strongly supportive of keeping this in our legislative agenda. I think it's something that Sandag needs, that Sandag would benefit well from, that we as a region would benefit well from not letting the kind of hyper-partisan and fractioned world that we're living in stand as a huge barrier to really important progress.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to weigh in here that, so I do stand by our staff recommendation, which is, Caltrans is comfortable with a bus on shoulder approach, as was just stated. And I think that deferring to their expertise running their own area and their negotiations with our transit agencies that I understand have been ongoing for a long time. I don't feel like we should be preempting that here by somehow voting against that bus on shoulder idea. I think reutilizing existing infrastructure is certainly the cheapest and most efficient way to think about how to move people around. And then also, on our legislative program, this does, as our CEO said, as Hassan said, this is not us proposing our own bill, but this is supporting efforts that are taking place at the state level and that other agencies like ours are also pursuing and would allow us to move forward with our transportation goals in this county. So I'll be supporting the staff recommendation that these two items pass on consent. So I'll call on, I think Mayor Hall has hand up again, and then we'll see where we are process wise, but just, so let me go to Mayor Hall. Go ahead.
So are we going to vote on my motion first?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to manage, okay, so your motion is just about item 7. Is that
Mhm.
right? And your motion is that,
And just that bullet point. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in item 7. I just disagree with that one bullet point. That's part of our legislative platform. So
Okay.
I want to go on record that I don't support that. If others want to support it, let them vote yes on it. But
okay,
to me,
so-
I want it pulled out.
okay,
was
I
the
appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm going to make a substitute motion that we approve staff recommendation for item 6 and 7 on consent.
Second, Sotelo Solis.
And recognizing, hearing you out, Mayor Hall and Mayor Jones, that you're on record as having opposed that, but I just, for efficiency's sake and to move forward, I'm making that motion and it's been seconded. So
Can I
is
comment
that,
on that?
yes,
So to me, that I don't want to have to vote. It's hard for me to vote because there's a lot of good stuff in item 7. But what you're doing is you're forcing me to vote no on item 7 because you won't allow my vote on just that one item of what I was asked to be removed. So just so we're clear, and go ahead and call for the vote.
okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Thank you.
Mayor Jones has her hand up.
Mayor Jones, do you want to make another comment?
Well, I have a question because I actually made the motion to approve item number 6. So I'm not sure how, and you seconded it, so I'm not quite sure why we're voting on the 2 together. You said maybe we would look and see if we could approve them together, but I don't think that's what's happening right now. So I'd like
Okay,
to,
you're right. Let's go back to item 6 and vote on item 6 and just have that one done.
thank you.
Okay, so
And
sorry,
Chair,
everybody.
I'll rescind my second of the substitute motion.
Well, let's just put that aside. She's right that there
Okay.
was a motion and a second on 6, so then we'll go back to 7. So,
Okay.
yeah, so let's just, yeah. We're voting on item number 6. And this is, just to be clear, it's Mayor Jones's motion that we approve it, and I'm seconding that.
Thank you, Chair. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Item 6, aye.
For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Yes.
For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
For the City of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterland.
Gasterland, yes, and I want to commend the Sandag staff for the flexibility in changing the scope for deliveries to the elderly. Thank you.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
For the City of Escondido is absent. For the City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Aguirre.
Aguirre, yes.
For the City of La Mesa, Vice Mayor Shu.
Mesa, yes.
For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
For the City of National City, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Yes.
For the City of San Diego, Council President Elo Rivera.
Elo Rivera, yes.
For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto has voted yes. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Huebner.
Huebner, yes.
And for the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. And that item does pass unanimously with those members present.
Okay, thank you. So Mayor Hall, I'm thinking about how to best accommodate your desire to vote no on one bullet item. And so what was your, or Mayor Gasterland, do you want to weigh in here?
Yeah, I would suggest that we go ahead and vote on Mayor Hall's proposal. If people want to include the bullet, they can vote no on his, and then we'd have another motion.
I mean, I don't see that actually solves anything. Like, so he made a motion to to not approve the program with that bullet item. And I made a substitute motion to just approve the legislative program as it is. So I'm
just
okay,
asking the whole-
Mayor Huebner.
Yeah, I think in the past, what we've done is just with a note that Mayor Hall objects to this particular bullet item.
No.
Would that work?
I personally would like just to, it's very simple. We could have already done it. Just pull to eliminate item 16 is my motion to pull that out of the legislative program. We can have an up or down vote on that, and then we can go and vote on everything else. I don't see why, I mean, that's so simple. Why can't we do that?
Okay, we have a lot of other mayors who want to weigh in here. So Mayor Bailey.
Thanks, Chair. I think we can just move the legislative package as is with the exception of item 16. That allows, I think, Mayor Hall, I think that would allow Mayor Hall to vote on it, would allow people like myself to vote on it. And then the board could then take up a second motion to add item 16 in the legislative package. That'd be my suggestion.
Okay.
I second the suggestion.
Okay. So it's to move the legislative program minus item 16. That's that. And that was Mayor Hall's motion. Is that what you're saying? Your motion was Mayor Hall?
Yes, that's another way of doing it. I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Chair, point of clarification. Just to be clear, I heard Mayor Hall's motion to be to amend to strike that one bullet. Which does feel different than approving the legislative agenda without. So I mean, if we're going to do this, if we could just vote on that amendment to strike the bullet, I think that is cleaner. Folks who don't like it can vote to strike it. Those of us who think it's important can vote to can vote against that amendment. But that seemed to be the initial motion that had been made. It feels like it's kind of morphing under our feet right now.
Okay. So you're saying that I think you're right, that Mayor Hall's original motion was to amend the legislative program to strike that.
That's what I heard. That's what it sounded like had been confirmed.
Complicated.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
Sorry, Chair, that was my second too. I did second that motion. Just as a reminder, it's been a while. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, does anyone else want to weigh in here on their opinion about this? No? Okay.
I think I already did.
Hey, Chair. So for parliamentary procedures, we do have a motion to support Mayor Hall's, and we did have a second, and that is to strike item 16. However, if we do go to the substitute, if we are starting over, did you still want to introduce that substitute motion of accepting it as is?
Yeah, I mean, partly I'm trying to accommodate the variety of perspectives on this board. I'm not hearing anyone say that they really want to do a substitute motion that just accepts as is. So if somebody, do you feel, I mean, I'm happy to still make that motion and just, is that as a seconder of that, was that what you're trying to say, that you would like to do that?
Yes, but as was mentioned earlier with Mayor Huebner and I think both Mayor Hall and Jones, I think it's with the asterisk, I think we need to find out more information about the public safety component. I think that is because we have potentially resources that we're going to have to, secure and just make sure that we continue to advocate for. I think public safety and that shoulder question, because I had the same thing too. I had the same question, like how specifically are we supposed to do this? But maybe we pull that out as a presentation later, but we approve the legislative package as submitted. But again, we get more finite detail from staff regarding that. And I think as a substitute, again, approve, but get more detail drawn out regarding the shoulders and specifically a presentation from Caltrans. I think it kind of meets both.
Okay,
needs.
so what I'm gonna do is just all this stuff is basically discussion, and I'm gonna make that substitute motion. We approve the legislative program. I'm gonna take what you just said as a second, and we're not gonna have notes or bullets or, but all that discussion Sandag staff can come back with more information in the future, but it's not part of the motion. So just to be clear, it's a substitute motion I'm making after the original motion, and you're seconding it to just approve the legislative program as written.
Correct.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Mayor Ritter, did you want to say something?
Well, I don't have a problem with the whole legislative program except for that one issue, not the road one. Again, we already approved that, I thought, the shoulder thing. My problem is a 2/3 vote, and the Sandag we talked about earlier tonight was approved by a 2/3 vote. And so I have a problem with supporting changing that. And so I would support all of the motion, but I don't support that number. So I wanted to vote taking that out. So that was comment.
Yeah, no, I understand your comment, and I mean you can vote accordingly given that you're concerned about that.
Oh, but you're making us all vote against this whole thing just because of that one issue.
Right, that's right. I am. And I mean, part of it is just saying like, okay, I get it that there are parts of legislative programs people don't like, but at this point, we've talked about it a lot. And I think it is true that we need to move forward from this item. And so that is the substitute motion. And if the substitute motion fails, then it'll go back to the original motion from Mayor Hall. So that, that's just the way this works. So, okay, we're gonna go ahead and vote on this now.
Can I say one more thing? Chair, this is a prime example of how we could build collaboration, and we're choosing not to. I just want to make that noteworthy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
No.
For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Yes.
For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
No.
For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
For the City of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterland.
Del Mar is no due to the public safety issues.
For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
No.
For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
The City of Escondido is absent. For the City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Aguirre.
Aguirre, yes.
For the City of La Mesa, Vice Mayor Shu.
Let me say yes.
For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
For the City of National City, Second Vice Chair Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, no.
For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
No.
For the City of San Diego, Council President Elo Rivera.
Elo Rivera, yes.
For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, no.
For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto has voted yes. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Huebner.
Yes.
And for the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, no.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. And that item does pass with 10 yeses and 8 nos and 1 absence.
Okay. Okay, now we're on to our CEO report.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you, board members. Good to see you today. I will make this very quick. This morning, we had a ribbon cutting ceremony and community bike ride for the grand opening of the 4th and 5th Avenue bikeways just down the street from our Sandag offices. This project adds more than 4.5 miles to our region's network of bikeways, providing a vital connection to residents between downtown San Diego, Bankers Hill, and Hillcrest. I want to thank the Mayor Gloria and Council President Elio Rivera and the city for working with us in accelerating the completion of the bike programs in the region. Last week, we hosted a binational summit for leaders from the United States and Mexico to mark the ongoing progress of the future Otay Mesa East port of entry. Our chair, Blackspear, vice chair, Gloria, Mayor Serge Dedina were in attendance together with our U.S. ambassador to Mexico, our Lieutenant Governor, Elena Sonolakis, the governor of Baja California. And it's fair to say that it was a big event for both sides of the border, and our discussion were productive. I am confident that by partnering with our federal government, we will deliver this project. Speaking of that, I was in Washington, D.C. Last Tuesday, have extensive meetings and high-level meetings in Homeland Security, General Service Administration, Custom and Border Protection, and the White House with Juan Gonzalez, the advisor to the president. Our message was very clear. The federal government need to commit to funding the operation, the guards. It's about $50 million a year. Three of our congressional leaders were at the round table. Congresswoman Sarah Jacob, Congressman Scott Peters, and Congressman Juan Vargas. I spoke to all of them, and I am grateful to all of them from both parties, both Republican and Democrats, and our two senators, Senator Padilla and Senator Feinstein, signed a letter and send it forward to make sure that the federal government appropriate funding for the guards for $50 million. I am very comfortable with the meetings we have, and I am happy to report to you that this summer we're gonna start the site preparation for the facility. Also, immediately our CFO initiated the work for TIFIA loan from the federal government, and eventually to go to Wall Street. I look forward together with you to open this amazing project, one of the most advanced in the country, in September 2024. Like Mayor Gloria said, and Chair Blackspear said in their opening remark, we're two cities, one region. It is so important for our largest funding partner, trading partner, to be with us. So looking forward to this. Our partners from Caltrans, I know Anne is representing Gustavo today. Mario also, who's the corridor director, do amazing job as always. We're grateful for our state, the lieutenant governor, secretaries, and that's going to make this happen. So look forward to the building of this facility and opening it in September 2024. A couple of other things. This week we hosted a regional housing working group, like you heard, about the $43 million we received from the state. I want to thank all of you for unanimously approving this. This is, this is a beginning of a housing program that I think is going to be copied all around the country and the state for sure. We are used as an example, and we're modeled after actually how this could benefit not only the region, but our local cities as well. I want to inform you of something really important that I will be talking to you when we have more information. But you all know that we have a fraud, waste, and abuse hotline. Last week, our independent auditor, Mary Kay, let me know about an operational error that has come to her attention. Some of our equipment on the State Route 125, these are the equipment, there's about 42 of them. They read the transponders. Some of our equipment, 5 of those 42 malfunction. They didn't work. And for 2.5 months, for those 5 station, tolls were not collected. The minute the team knew about it, they repaired the equipment. Part of it had to do with the consultant we had hired. falling behind schedule big time. And it's not only here, but across the country. The staff working on this brought this to my attention just last week by our independent auditor, like I said, but it was brought to senior management attention a few months back and failed to reach me and update you. Our independent auditor is still investigating the matter in terms of the impact, the financial impact. And I want you to know that we're taking all steps necessary to make sure this doesn't happen again. We're also, I think, our contractor is liable, and we're gonna seek damages from that consultant. But I can't tell you right now the number, the loss to revenues. You know, you hear numbers somewhere between 700,000, maybe 2 million, but after our independent auditor finishes her work, we would know the exact number, and we will also keep you informed about the claim that we're gonna against our contractor. This is just important for you to know that from day one, I think we want to make sure that we have all the controls in this agency to make sure these kind of things don't happen. Take full responsibility for management not informing us earlier and me not informing you earlier, but we're getting to the bottom of this and we're going to correct it. And again, both myself and I'm sure the independent auditor, once she completes her investigation, will be talking to you. I just want to emphasize a couple of points. This was not an intentional mistake. This was a mistake for malfunctioning of the equipment. Was corrected the minute we knew about it. Should have informed you earlier. I take full responsibility for that. So I want to make sure you knew about that. And again, I will be reporting to you after our independent auditor completes her audit. I want to announce a couple of other things. And today or later today, our border committee will be celebrating its 20th anniversary. The border committee is part of what makes Sandag unique. I am proud to celebrate this milestone, and I'll be speaking to the committee later this afternoon. Chair, that concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions from the board.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm just eating a little. Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much. Director Ekrada, I want to say thank you very much for your transparency. This is a big deal. I mean, potentially $2 million. That's a lot of money for the agency. I know we were talking in billions always, but that's a lot of money. So thank you. And I'm glad that our OIPA's office is doing what they're supposed to do. And so thank you to you too, Mary. One thing that I wanted to bring up, I'm sorry, I've looked through my notes. I cannot find where I wrote it down. But at the last Board of Directors meeting, I had brought up the road user charge action on December 10th, and that I wanted to make sure we had a full environmental review in the with that coming back to the Board of Directors to eliminate that road user charge. And I can't remember if we said we had the federal approval already or the state approval. And then I was wondering if you could give us an update on that, which one we do indeed have, because I can't find it in my notes. And then when we expect the second agency to be weighing in on our RTP. Sorry, I'm not sure if I made that clear of what I was actually asking. And then when we might be seeing this item back in front of the full Board of Directors.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Yes, we did get the conformity approval from the Federal Highway Administration. So the federal approval. We're still awaiting the state approval, the Air Resources Board approval of our sustainable community strategy. And as we speak, we're working with them. They have questions, we're answering them. We expect this to be done before May. It could happen anytime, and the minute it happened, I'll make sure you get an email, or if it's close to a board meeting, I'll inform you. Regarding of course, as I told you before, I have a direction to come to you with an evaluation of the user charge, and that's exactly what we're going to do. As I indicated, Mayor Jones, before, this is going to require quite a bit of work, and which we're doing right now. I don't think you're going to wait long. It's not going to be months. It's going to be very shortly, hoping April and May will get the approval from the state, and we start the process for informing you about the changes to the RTP.
Wonderful, thank you.
May I add something to that as well, that we've started the consultation process with the state agencies that actually started this week. So we have several meetings set up with the Air Resources Board. So far, it's looking good. And we're very hopeful that by the end of April, we'll have an approval, and then we will be coming forward to the board with a timeline for how to approach to truly implement what was in the resolution before you on December 10th. We take that very seriously, and we actually are working right now on that timeline and all the detail to bring forward to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Salas.
Thank you. And thank you, Hassan, for the report and for bringing to light the problem with the SR 125 toll equipment. You actually answered my questions during the rest of your presentation relative to the estimation of the loss of revenues and whether or not we had any recourse in collecting from the contractor. So I just want to make sure that the information keeps flowing to us, especially our staff here in the city of Chula Vista relative to the SR 25, because as you know, I'm continuing to advocate for the removal of the tolls eventually. And that, and as you know, Hassan, that Ben Wessler has introduced a spot bill relative to the SR 125. It's really vague right now, but I look forward to, seeing how that works out through the legislative process. So thanks a lot, but please keep our staff informed of anything that's going on with the SR 125.
Absolutely, Mercedes. And I know my staff is gonna kick me after this meeting. They told me, don't say numbers yet. I mean, in discussion, I said somewhere between 700 to 1 million. It could be a little bit more, it could be less, but that's in the neighborhood, and absolutely will be informed of all of this. And yes, thank you for letting me know earlier about Senator Wesso's bill, and I look forward to working with your staff. But I will make sure this board is totally informed of the issue once it's resolved, and I'm sure our independent auditor will do the same. I also want to tell you how important it is to have an independent auditor. This is another example where we're going to be accountable, and this is a message to all of our staff that we need to be accountable to the public. So I am really grateful that we have such an office, and we have such a fraud line for people to call and for Mary and her team to investigate. So I'm grateful for that.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Salas, that was all your comments, right? Okay, I'll move to Mayor Hall.
Yes, Chair, and I'm not sure if this is the right moment or not. It's up to you, but we've been talking a lot about the RTP and the RTP coming back to us, and the RTP perhaps having changes and how that, what that will look like. One of the things I want to have as part of the conversation as to whatever this board agrees upon, that we use our voice when we go out to the people for a funding source, that we don't use a third party. So I would like to have that part of the conversation, that we lead when the RTP is ready to go to the community, and perhaps it'll be on the November ballot. I'm not sure yet, but when it gets back, but I want us to be the one that puts whatever the ballot initiative is on the ballot and not let a third party drive it. So I leave it up to you and the CEO to try and figure out how best to have that conversation.
I would just say,
have that conversation.
Mayor Hall, thank you. And I just would say to the rest of the board that there will not be any request for any sales tax measure without this board approving to go to the voters. So I agree with you. We never, whatever the third party does is their business. We're not involved. We cannot be involved, or we won't even be anywhere close to that. But you're absolutely right. This board will be the final say whether to go to the voter or not, and then the voters will be the final jury in whether this passes. Absolutely.
So I just want to make sure when it goes on the ballot, and then obviously it will, that we write the language and we put it on the ballot. So thank you, sir. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ann Fox from Caltrans, do you have your hand up?
Yes, yes. I just wanted to acknowledge Hassan's comments or item regarding Otay Mesa East and just double down on the excitement for this project too. I'm speaking on behalf of our district with Gustavo and Mario, that we too, this is a priority project for both of our agencies, and we are very much looking forward to starting the site prep coming up this summer. So thank you, Hassan.
Okay, thank you. So I think the last comment from Mayor Hall was morphing into a member comment, but that's where we are now. So we'll end the CEO. Actually, I need to ask, do we have public comment on CEO report?
Thank you, Chair. I do see 2 hands up from the public. Mike Bullock will be followed by Catherine Rhodes, and Mike, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I did have some comments. Again, an excellent report, and I think that the San Diego is so lucky to have our executive director done so much, and we've made such a dramatic change from the past, and that's very much appreciated. You know, on the bikeway opening, we spend a lot of money on those things, and there's a lot of community pushback and discussion about on-street parking and so on and so forth. And we should keep focused on what we're trying to do there. We're trying to get people out of cars and onto bicycles. And every time there has been a study of something like car parking cash out, where suddenly there's a price differential between parking a car and not parking a car, the impact is very dramatic. And in other words, that's the way to increase walking and biking and transit use, is to have a car parking system where it's treated, the employees are treated fairly and given the choice whether they want the money or do they want the parking. And that's what a good system does. I also wanted to tie together a few things that have happened in this meeting. We've talked about the safety of making a managed lane out of a freeway shoulder. And then this road use charge issue is ever present here. And there was a concern about equity, and that should be factored into the decision about what we do about road use charge, what you do about road use charge, and how you change the RTP in that way. And there's a direct connection, because if we had replaced the state gas tax with a means-based road use charge, one that would be equitable, then really all lanes could become managed lanes, and they would be. That is the way we would go, and we wouldn't lose money with transponders, because that's not a good system. And the state needs to be told they should be working on a road use charge which would work for all roads and would be fair. And we are electrifying the fleet. I mean, it's just amazing to me that everyone is pretending like we don't have a problem with the gas tax, and that the gas tax should be replaced with the road use charge. That would solve a lot of these problems. We should face up to these changes, and we should push the good technology that would solve those problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Catherine Rhodes. Catherine, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Lovely, thank you. And I agree, that was a wonderful report. And thank you so much for being a leader. And now you're adding things related to the housing element instead of only looking at the circulation, transportation, and safety elements of the regional plan. You know, that's very transformative for all of us. And so what I want to mention is one way you could get 2/3 approval, and that's putting something on the November ballot to solve homelessness. Back when in 2007, when Michael McConnell made a poll, they said it was over 70% would approve a homeless ballot issue. And then, you know, up in Los Angeles, what it was, I forgot what year it was, 2006, Proposition HHH, I believe they got 80% approval. So there literally is a way to get 2/3 approval to bring everybody in, because the number one thing people complain to you about, I'm sure, is the tragedy of all these homeless neighbors that we have and how nothing can be done. And I also wanted to mention, you know, the great solution that came straight from San Diego. Back in 1987, the Neil Good Day Center opened, and that was a new law to allow state public land that's owned by Caltrans to be used for homelessness. And so we got the Neil Good Day Center, and then it's been 35 years and not one other project has ever come forward to help the homeless on Caltrans land. There's tons of Caltrans land that could be used. And the thing is, it's only for air rights. It can't be a permanent structure. And so that would be a, you know, great place for RVs or safe parking lots or anything. And so hopefully, you know, the leadership of Sandag will look into these and try to get some, you know, contracts with Caltrans for their air rights so we can help our homeless neighbors. Thank you so much. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That concludes the public comments.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So now we are on to member comments. So if there are any board members who would like to make comments, see Maria Salas's hand is up, but I think that might be up from before. She doesn't pop on.
No, that was an old one. That's.
Okay. Great. So now we will adjourn into close. So basically we are going to go over to closed session. And could you just remind board members of where they can find the link to that closed session?
Yes, Chair, also if we could take a moment for public comments on the closed session items before we adjourn, but I did email all of the links to all the members from Clerk of the Board's email address earlier this week. Please feel free to reach out to me if you need me to resend it.
Okay, so we will go to public comment on item 14 and 15, the two closed session items. Do any members of the public wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I don't see any hands.
Okay. Okay, great. Then we will adjourn into closed and I will see you over there. I think I counted a quorum. It's 9, right?
Yes, thank you. I'm still moving over into the panelists.
Quorum's 10.
I'm sorry, it's 10, not 9. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and report out.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to report that the board met in closed session on item number 14 and has no reportable actions. The board also met in closed session on item 15 and has rejected the claim filed against Sandag. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just a few brief announcements here. We will be holding a board retreat from May 25 through May 27. So make sure and mark your calendars for that. We're going to go back to the place where we've done it before, which is in this county. And more information will be coming out about that. So, and then secondly, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have executive committee and board of directors on March 11th, which will be hybrid. So for those of you who feel safe, please come and join us in person. And there will be an ability for both Sandag board members and the public to participate virtually. And so more information about that you can get from Francesca or other members of the Sandag staff. So with that, our next board meeting is March 11 at 9 a.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for an efficient meeting, Catherine.